आप सभी को नमस्कार। वेलकम एवरीवन। सो आज एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण और इम्पोर्टेंट दिन है हम लोगों के लिए। आप में से कई बच्चे, कई स्टूडेंट्स यूपीएससी की प्रिपरेशन कर रहे होंगे। कई लोग बहुत ज्यादा पब्लिक पॉलिसी, गवर्नेंस, ऑपरेशन, अगेंस्ट ऑपरेशन या एडवोकेसी, लॉ, लिटिगेशन, इन सब फील्ड में वर्क करना चाह रहे होंगे। तो ओवरऑल हर चीज एक पॉइंट पे एंड होती है। दी ऑपरेशन जो गवर्नमेंट का है या कहीं से भी हो रहा है, और उस चीज एक लॉस सेंड जरूर वर्क करता है। द थिंग ऑफ द स्किल ऑफ स्टैंडिंग अप, जहां भी है आपको खड़े होना, गलत चीज के खिलाफ बोलना, उस बारे में आज हम चर्चा करने आ रहे हैं, आज हम डिस्कस करने वाले हैं। सो टुडे वी हैव विद अस, आज हमारे बीच है अमिताभ ठाकुर सर। सो सर आईपीएस अधिकारी रह चुके हैं, यूपीएससी बैच और 992 बैच के आईपीएस अधिकारी रह चुके हैं। और सर अपने आप को जबरिया रिटायर्ड कहते हैं। सो सर वॉज फोर्सफुली रिटायर्ड फ्रॉम दी सर्विस, दैट इज इंडियन पुलिस सर्विस। सर वॉज आईजी, इंस्पेक्टर जनरल ऑफ पुलिस पे थे, और ऑपरेशन के खिलाफ हमेशा बोला, करप्शन के खिलाफ हमेशा बोला, और हमेशा आवाज उठाई, बीइंग द पार्ट ऑफ द सिस्टम, उस सिस्टम का पार्ट रहते हुए। एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट ही फेस ऑल दिस, उनको सर्विस से निकाला गया, उनके ऊपर फ्रिवलेस केसेस, मैलिशियस केस, मैलिफाइड केसेस हुए। सो आज हम इस चीज के बारे में थोड़ा गहरे से जानेंगे, और थोड़ा सर से जानेंगे कि सर की क्या बातें हैं, सर का क्या जीवन पहले रहा है, और सर का आगे की क्या बातें हैं, सर आगे क्या करना चाहते हैं।
नहीं सर, अमिताभ बोल रहा हूँ सर। अमिताभ ठाकुर सर आदेश सर। जसाना की दावत वाली बात भूल गए आप, यही करना पड़ेगा आपको सर। आदेश करें सर। अब आप सुधर जाइए, तय कह दिया मैंने
कि आईपीएस ऑफिसर अमिताभ ठाकुर को रिटायरमेंट दिया गया है, तत्काल प्रभाव से सेवा मुक्त किया गया है।
मैं नहीं जाऊंगा ऐसे। मुझे खैर कॉपी तो मैं से नहीं जाऊंगा, ये इलीगल।
पुलिस अमिताभ को घसीटते हुए हजरतगंज थाने ले जा रही है। अमिताभ ठाकुर ने हाल ही में मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ के खिलाफ चुनाव लड़ने का ऐलान किया था।
देखिए साथियों, मेरे साथ कुछ भी होता है योगी आदित्यनाथ जिम्मेदार होंगे।
सारे लोग विजिलेंस के सुबह आए थे, तो करीब 30-40 लोग अंदर हैं। पुलिस वालों को भारी संख्या में लाए थे। इनको डर था कि मैं शायद कोई हंगामा करूंगा। मैं आपसे भी निवेदन करूंगा कि एक बार आप भी देख लेते मेरे घर को। मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि कम से कम इसी बहाने मेरे अंदर की जो घर की जो सच्चाई वो भी मालूम हो जाएगी। मैंने एक ऐसे व्यक्ति के खिलाफ करा दिया जिस व्यक्ति को कभी अंदेशा नहीं था कि उस व्यक्ति के कुकृत्यों या गलत कामों के बारे में कोई कुछ कह सकता है। मैंने कहा,
लिस्ट दे रहे थे जिसपे मेरे साइन नहीं थे। मैंने कहा मैं इस लिस्ट को नहीं लूंगी। जो ओरिजिनल जिसपे मैंने साइन किया है, मैंने भी अपनी आपत्ति लिखी, आप मुझे वो सर्च लिस्ट दीजिए। जब मैंने उसकी कॉपी मांगी तो वो डॉक्यूमेंट लेके ही भाग गए, ये कहते हुए कि आपने इस पे ये कैसे लिख दिया, अब हम आपको नहीं देंगे।
भाग गया कागज लेके। अच्छा, हम कह रहे हैं लॉकर की जांच करो, ये भाग गया। विजिलेंस वालों ने चोरों की तरह बर्ताव किया।
सो नमस्कार सर, बहुत अच्छा लगा आप हमारे शो पे आए हैं, और आप कुछ आज यंगर जनरेशंस को गाइड करेंगे। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। तो सर पहला हमारा क्वेश्चन आपसे ये है कि सर बचपन में आप कहाँ से थे, आपकी पैदाइश कहाँ हुई, कहाँ की है, एंड वो आईपीएस और यूपीएससी का ड्रीम आपने कैसे देखा?
सर, आई बिलोंग टू बिहार। Originally, I belong to Bihar. I belong to a place called Sitamarhi. I was born in Muzaffarpur. Later on, my parents shifted to Bokaro in Jharkhand. At that time, it was part of Bihar.
Yes.
I was born and brought up mostly in Bokaro. Later on, I went to IIT Kanpur. That was 1985. And I graduated in 1989. After that, I competed in this civil service examination. My optionals in civil services were mechanical engineering and mathematics. I got selected in 1992 batch, and since then I was an IPS officer for the last 28 or 29 years. Till the time I was thrown away by the central government. What they call being compulsorily retired as being unfit for public service. That is what I was said, that you are not fit for public service anymore, and thereby I became a what in fact I can say that I almost coined the term Jabariya retired, so I became a Jabariya retired man. And 3 or 4 months later on, I was an FIR was registered against me, which I claim.
Correct,
I
sir.
say I claim because at the moment it is under trial before the honorable court, and hence for me to be the judge of my own cause is not proper. I say that I claim it is a false, completely false,
Correct, sir.
malicious case of state persecution. I call it a state-sponsored terrorism,
Correct.
and that forced me to be in Lucknow prison for 7 months. I am out since March 15th, and nowadays I have floated a new party, political party. I can say it's a political outfit by the name of Adhikar Sena.
Correct.
And we are a newbie. We are a very small political party at the moment. We are just emerging. We are trying to emerge,
Correct.
and we are trying to make our presence felt. So this is what my journey is about.
So sir, I have this question to you कि सर बहुत सारे जो एस्पिरेंट है यूपीएससी के उनके माइंड में एक क्वेश्चन है कि means how to balance out that thing, political pressure, or should we balance that political pressure, or should we stand up against that? What should be the strategy for an aspirant? He is thinking about that.
So there are two aspects to it. The first one is, as long as you are an aspirant, you have to go by the mandate of the examination, the requirements of the examination. The examination in our days, there were 2 optional papers, and hence the optionals were more important. And for us who are from science background, particularly from engineering background, we had a definite leverage. I don't know whether the leverage exists today or not, but in our days there was a definite leverage. So during examination, you have to behave like a boy who has to present facts. I mean, it needs diligence, it needs hard preparation, it needs some kind of a proper mind frame also.
Correct.
Now, the second aspect part of it is at the moment you become a civil servant. For civil servants, I think in all services, but particularly, I must say, particularly in IAS and definitely the most in IPS, because I can vouch to the fact that despite IAS still is considered the best and is possibly the best service.
Correct.
But the most dynamic service is definitely IPS, because here you have to take decisions at a zippy in a moment. Instantaneous decision making has to go on all through. An IAS officer, he can wait for a decision to take place. It can wait. In our case, you have to take a decision, whether to strike a crowd or not, whether to get an FIR registered or not, whether to arrest a person or not, whether to leave a person, to arrest everything it goes in what the word called the real time scale. It goes by real time scale. The decision making has to be almost Twitter and Facebook have come nowadays, but we were almost on Twitter and Facebook right from our services. So here again, and in all services, political intervention, political presence, political pressure, they are a reality. No one can deny this fact. My personal opinion about today, after the end of my journey, I can say my personal experience and thinking is that political pressure is as much as you give relevance to. The more you give it importance, the more important it becomes. Because the only thing a politician can do is to transfer, and many a times, to be frank, even transfers cannot be done by small fries. If I can use the word, small fries cannot get to transferred, yes. But very senior politicians, like the chief ministers, like the very powerful cabinet ministers, they can definitely harm you. Unfortunately, I had a brush off with generally with the top notch, particularly in the last 15 years of my services. And hence my service, the later part of my service was definitely tougher, because my brushes were not with the, what you call the word now is fringe elements. They were not the fringe elements or with the lesser mortals, but it was generally with the top brass, and there they have all the power. But whatever consequences I faced, I am still very happy. And to me, it seems that I am quite happy and contented with whatever I do.
And sir, I have another question. The students asked this question to me. The students think that the corruption, these things are inevitable. These things can't end these things are continuing from when the society started. So is it fair? Is it good on part of a person to do that thing? And what is your ideology? What are you thinking about?
See, my personal opinion about the question you asked is that, I mean, ultimately society is made of human beings, and human beings are what they are. They are a mixture of good and bad. They have their weaknesses and their strengths. So, I mean, a reality is a reality. But my opinion is that it is more than the individuals, it is the system which is more important. Like, I mean, if there is a system which has to be transparent, like, I mean, I was at IIT, you
Correct.
are in NLU. Many of these systems are more transparent than other systems. You have definite examinations, regular examinations. You get your marks. In our IIT days, we used to get our papers were presented to us. We could see our papers. We could see the papers of our friends, and we could make an assessment. Okay, it's fine. I got 9 out of 20. It's okay. He got 13. That is again okay. So I could not blame the teacher because there was transparency in the system. And the second part was, if I got only 9 marks and should have got 13, let us say, and I went to the professor, he didn't say that you wrote the answer just now. He readily accepted the fact there was a system of believing each other, as long as there was not a reason not to disbelieve.
Correct.
So transparency and accountability, in my opinion, are the twin principles on which a society should be focused, should be based upon. And in that, in my opinion, technology also plays an important part. Today, many more people are getting convicted or are getting caught, particularly because of the massive use of electronic devices. Emails were there, now WhatsApps are there, now this thing is there, now that thing is there, and informations get generated, information remains stored, and a person cannot deny that he had been a part of the process here or there or there or here.
Correct, sir.
So with the advent of the technology and with the massive use of technology, my personal opinion is that the concept and the situation of accountability and transparency have improved massively. At the same time, I mean, we all know that governments, particularly governments in India, governments in various parts of India, they do try to dampen transparency through all possible might. As you know, if they can, in fact, my opinion is that of everything you might say about Indian National Congress, one thing it did fantastic was to introduce the Right to Information Act. In fact, RTI, in my opinion, is one single such act which transformed the entire country, and information is in age, we can call it, was more or less the result of the RTI Act. So today you are equipped with a tool which, I mean, through which you can ask anything about anyone. He might reply, he might not reply, but you can challenge the information, and many times you get the information, because if the PIO has not given, the first appellate might give, the commission might give, or even the High Court or the Supreme Court.
Correct,
So
sir.
what I personally believe is that accountability and transparency are the twin principles on which our governance should be based. And even if an individual might be thinking good or bad, or might be having any kind of temperament or taste, but if the system is there, then definitely every person is more or less bound to follow the system. I mean, a common example I would say is that, I mean, the way the people follow traffic rules in USA and in India. The same person who goes to USA becomes a changed man, and he's very particular about the traffic rules. Here he becomes quite too casual. Even in the state of, even in India, his approach towards traffic rules is quite different in Delhi and in Bihar, the place I belong to. Bihar is, I mean, everyone can have everything at his hand. He's at a completely leisurely approach. Delhi, he's quite alert. So it is the system and possibly not the human being. What it means is that everyone might be having an inclination for, let us say, corruption, or for fast money, or for privileges, or whatever. But if the system is there where he feels that he can get caught, like through introduction of RTI, through introduction of these video cameras, mobile cameras,
Correct, sir.
people are more susceptible nowadays. With the recordings being done of the telephones, people are more susceptible. They are more cautious. So I think that we need to give impetus and focus on systems. Systems need to be improved, and it will definitely have an impact upon the entire surrounding.
Sir, I have this another question to you, sir. So we know how many criminals are there in our parliament, in our legislature, and everywhere in the state, everywhere. So don't you fear about that you're standing up against the government, the people, speaking the truth or telling your part? So are these more strong, more competent that they can do more harm to you?
I mean, the answer to this is, I mean, to me, the answer is simple. To me, my fundamental premise is that if there was an option and if there was a way in which I was not to die and I had to remain immortal, if someone had given me such an elixir which would have made me immortal, then I would have stopped fearing people and would have opted for whatever way. I would have kept myself safe to remain alive for years and years and years. My understanding is that life is what it is, and it has so many chances, so many approaches, so many factors. And whatever happens to you next, no one knows. Whatever happens next to any individual, no one knows. It is not only death through bullet that happens. It can be death through accident, through diseases, through any casual accident. So when there's something about which you are not you don't have a certainty about it. It's completely uncertain. Then why particularly fear these ruffians or these goons who are themselves quite frightened of things around them? They are themselves very fearful people. So why fear these people?
Okay, sir. So, sir, I have this question, sir, that you spoke against the governments from the SP government, the Mulayam Singh, the whole government of the Mulayam Singh Yadav and Akhilesh Yadav, and then coming back to this era of BJP. So, sir, you have faced repercussions in all this period, and you spoke against the government in all those periods. So, do you think that it's a thing of one party or one system, or is just a whole system? All parties are kind of same.
Every party claims it is a party with a difference, but the fact remains that they are one and the same.
Correct.
It is only a slight degree can be there, slight approach can be different. Like I have seen at least 3 governments. I have not seen Indian National Congress in UP, I can say. Correct. In functioning, I have seen BSP, I have seen SP, I have seen BJP. There are different approaches. BSP, they do not go for hooliganism on the streets, but they are well aware of the fact that they are the powers that be, and they control all the powers. There are widespread rumors of corruption in BSP, but it's said that the corruption is centralized.
Okay.
And privileges to the ruling party remain intact the same. BJP is more sophisticated. They know how to present themselves. They have the media in their hands. And they ensure that whatever they feel like, whatever they want, the media speaks the same. But the ground reality again is that everyone knows. People who know, they know. The ground reality is that there is corruption everywhere. The ministers are deep-rooted in corruption. The fact is that today they are not able to bring, the people are not being able to bring the truth because they are tight-lipped about corruption. And the activists, etc., are not being able to penetrate the system to bring all the facts and data. When the government changes, many of these facts will come out in open. Just the way when the SP government of Akhilesh Yadav crumbled, gave way to the BJP government of Mr. Yogi Adityanath, many facts about the SP government came out in open. People came to know how corrupt that system was.
Correct.
So that I think is the fundamental thing. Fundamentally, they are one and the same.
Okay, sir.
Yes, but from time to time, their approach is different, and all of them claim that they are better than the rest.
So, sir, I have read somewhere that you and your wife, ma'am, is writing some book on Arvind Kejriwal. So, are you inspired by Arvind Kejriwal or not? Means, do you look up his journey?
To say that I am not inspired by, or I am not affected by, or I am not, I do not. I do not count Mr. Kejriwal's life important. Would be speaking a blatant lie. Any kind of many people can make any kind of discredit about Mr. Kejriwal, We can have any opinion about Mr. Kejriwal, but the fact remains that Mr. Kejriwal is a pioneer in many fields. It is a fact that Mr. Kejriwal is the only person who was a bureaucrat and became a successful politician all on his own. He didn't use any crunch for himself. He didn't need any party he created a party of his own. He created a fan following of his own. He changed the Indian political scenario once and for all. He introduced many new factors which were hitherto unknown. And he successfully did all this. He was a successful, I don't know whether he was a successful bureaucrat or not, but he was definitely a successful social activist. He is definitely an extremely successful political person, and he has made a viable option. Like today, I have come with a political party. We claim that we have a party by the name of Adhikar Sena. But we are a very small party. We are not a viable option at the moment. We are just trying to get some position out there. Successful chief minister for many terms. He has a huge following. He has his party already in power in Punjab. There is a possibility that he might even come in Himachal Pradesh. His party is being felt on ground in Gujarat. So how can I say that Mr. Kejriwal has not done something which many others have been unable to do?
Correct, sir.
To many, including me, he may not be an ideal in all aspects, but yes, he's a lamppost which many of us want to follow.
Correct. So I have this question about the police system. Like we know how much politics is involved in the police system. So do you think that there should be some independence for the police system, or means something non-politicization of the police? And do you have any concrete plan that how should this be done and what's the thing around?
See, my opinion is that people have already. There is a National Police Commission report by Mr. Dharamveer, the then ICS officer. He presented a beautiful report. That was possibly in 1970s or something, or 1970s possibly.
Correct.
It is now more than 50 years. He went through all the aspects of policing, every little aspect he went through, and he gave his recommendations. But the fact is, are these recommendations being implemented? Mr. Prakash Singh, the ex-DGP of UP and BSF, he also went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court gave 6 guidelines, important guidelines. Till today, even years after, decades I will say, decades after the Honorable Supreme Court judgment, not much has happened. Even in UP, I can say that the Supreme Court asked and hoped and directed that the complaints against policemen shall not be inquired by the policemen, but it should be inquired by an independent committee. That is what happens in America and Britain. Correct. How can you be judge in your own cause? You are the accused, and you are the inquiry officer of yourself. So this aspect has been criticized by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said that there needs to be an independent inquiry committee. It has not been implemented in UP. The same set of officers inquire their own set of complaints. This is a mockery of the Supreme Court situation. It is a mockery of the police.
Sir, ये हमारा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है सर कि what's your future mapped plan for this अधिकार सेना, और आप क्या करना चाहते हैं? I've got to know कि you are planning contesting an election, and another question, last question that I want to add in this: what is the role of law in your life? Like how did law played in your life? Like all these things happened to you. So these are the 2 questions, last question that I want to ask.
Okay, I'll make a combined answer to both.
Correct.
Firstly, law. To me, law is the most important aspect of life. Law, in case, is adhered to and needs to be adhered to. Procedural laws can have a few deviations. Like procedural law is like you go to the class and you have been given a particular seat. For certain regions, you can shift your seat, and you can ask your principal, sir, may I sit there, and he might permit you. That is procedural law. There can be some little deviations as per the situations. I am not feeling well. Let me sit at the corner seat. That is procedural law. But substantive law cannot be, shall not be deviated at any cost. They need to be adhered at all costs. Criminal law, administrative law, civil law, they need to be adhered to by letter and by spirit. I try to adhere to them in all aspects. Procedural laws I don't always believe in, and my belief is that procedural laws need to be simplified, and the prime interest there need to be interest of justice. Whatever needs to be done in the interest of justice. The courts shall have the power to ease out the procedural laws, and the courts are not taking up their life responsibility in this regard in full measure. They are often getting themselves tied through procedural laws, which is dampening, harming, and adversely affecting the substantive law. The interest of justice is being affected because of too much rigor being placed or too much adherence being given to the procedural aspects of law. That is my thinking of law.
Okay, sir.
It needs to be simplified, and the courts also need to understand that procedural laws are made for the. I mean, they are only the means. They are not the ends.
Correct.
So that's one aspect. Now about future of Amitabh Thakur. I mean, all I know is that Amitabh Thakur never has actually somehow thought about what happens to him. Yes, he has thought about what he will do. At the moment, Amitabh Thakur has created, and with his friends, with the help and support of his friends, a political outfit by the name of Adhikar Sena. Adhikar Sena has very few points with it. The fundamental aspects on which Adhikar Sena stands, number one is that we believe that the rights emanate from the people. We the people is the crux. The preamble says we the people, and the rights must come from the people and go to the people, and they cannot be and shall not be given or thrust upon by anyone else. The way, I mean, the middleman, I call them middleman, the political persons, the bureaucrats, they're the middlemen. They feel that, I mean, they are giving the rights. It's not true. Rights have been given to us by the constitution, by the laws.
Right,
that is the first point. The second point is that our fundamental premise is that there needs to be a battle, I mean, an all-out battle against corruption and all-out battle against atrocities and injustice. These are the sins of the society about which systems needs to be developed, and these are the twin fundamental premises on which Adhikar Sena is based. The third one is that we do not believe in discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, religion. We do not believe in anyone being given extra care, but everyone being given equality truly in the eyes of laws, with no discrimination, either positive or negative, but vis-a-vis religion, vis-a-vis caste, there has to be a positive discrimination. There has to be a positive, what you call, I mean, I don't know what the word is, I mean, reservation, what we call in India. Yes. And there's something called, the US calls it by some other name. The reservations have to be there vis-a-vis the caste. But discrimination on the basis of caste, discrimination on the basis of religion, we do not believe in. The Adhikar Sena doesn't believe in. These are the fundamental premises. No. We have begun our journey. How far we will go, I don't know. And in a way, I'm not exactly I don't care about it also, as long as I feel that I'm doing what I can do.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir, for coming in. We are really inspired by your thought, whatever you are doing. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, young man. Thank you. Best wishes.